New mini set for Murder at Castle Nathria, Maw and Disorder. Very punny.
The Madman!
Maw and Disorder is coming out next week, Tuesday, September 27th, with 35 new cards, 4 of which will be legendaries. As usual, the reason to purchase these mini sets with real money or runestones these days would be if you like the legendaries in the set, so keep a special eye on those. So let's go ahead and begin with looking at the flagship legendary for Maw and Disorder. The Jailer, 10 mana, 10/10 legendary, battle cry, destroy your deck! For the rest of the game, your minions are immune. Wow, they really didn't hold back on this one. You very rarely see ways to give your minions immune because it's such a powerful effect. And the Jailer, permanently for the rest of your game, is a 10 mana 10/10 immune, but that's not it. It also makes all of the rest of your minions immune. Huge benefit, huge drawback, huge mana cost. Very difficult to know how good this card is, because it is one of those cards where you're inevitably going to win after you play it, because there's very few ways to remove immune. Main ways is with AoE board clears that destroy all minions. So if they don't have that, then you're going to eventually win the game. Like, even the Jailer will eventually win the game just by himself, but if you have other minions that are also immune, then you're good to go. So it is the most clear way of you play them and then you're going to eventually win. The slight drawback is your deck is destroyed, which means you may not have that much time to actually win the game. So potential synergies are that maybe you want to put it in a deck which shuffles some cards into your deck. Now here's the interesting thing. The drawback is not necessarily as harsh as it seems, because you can counter fatigue. If you just think of fatigue as, after 4 turns you take 10 damage, you toss lifesteal or have a lifesteal minion on, you can easily recover some of that health from the fatigue. Where it really hurts is you no longer replenish resources, you no longer have card advantage, you no longer have the cards that you draw each turn. So will you need to combo the Jailer with cards that shuffle cards into your deck? Will you get around that by just maybe like having some lifesteal or life gain? Or will you just not care and just put this into your mid-range deck as your big finisher? You continue pressuring the opponent. Late game you drop the Jailer, you keep pressuring the opponent. You can use your minions to like kill everything the opponent has without your minions dying, and then you take a little bit of fatigue damage, but then you ultimately push through with the Jailer and company. I think all those possibilities are possible. But whether or not the Jailer might be too slow, it's kind of hard to say. Personally, my initial opinion is that there are better ways to win the game. Do you really need to jump through the hoop of playing the Jailer and then setting yourself on a time limit to win the game, and then eventually winning the game afterwards? Alright, alongside the Jailer, Sylvanas has also been revealed. Sylvanas the Accused, neutral 6 mana 5/5 legendary, battle cry, destroy an enemy minion. If you infuse Sylvanas with 7, you take control of it instead. The flavor of it is that Sylvanas in Warcraft has the ultimate ability, Charm, and I guess this is the Charm ability. So that's kind of a cool implementation. This card is generally pretty good. I think it's along the lines of Insatiable Devourer. Fits a similar big minion removal in neutral spot. There are a number of decks that actually run 2 Insatiable Devourer right now. So they're going to have to ask themselves, do I want a 3rd Insatiable Devourer in my deck, which would be Sylvanas? Do I want to replace one of my Insatiable Devourers with Sylvanas? But a good generalist card, which, especially for value decks that are 40 cards from Renathal, Sylvanas will be considered, usually as I think the 30th to 40th card of the deck. It definitely is worth mentioning that if you get her infuse off, and that is not an easy infuse, That is a very valuable 6 mana card. Huge swing. Due Process from Druid, 2 mana, nature spell. For the rest of the game, players draw an extra card at the start of their turn. Interesting mill Druid card. If you're playing a small Druid, which is presumably where you want to draw more cards, then Due Process will, over time get you quite a lot of cards. At the downside, that the opponent also gets quite a lot of cards. I think the downside is a little too much. Symmetrical draw is only ever specifically good in very niche cases where you're trying to mill your opponent, and I don't believe a mill deck is possible. A small Druid deck, like a token deck, probably can't afford to waste one of its early turns playing 2 mana to do nothing. In addition, your opponent gets the first benefit of your 2 mana do nothing because they draw their extra card first. Seems very unlikely to be good. From Rogue, we've got Murder Accusation. 2 mana, choose a minion, destroy it after another enemy minion dies. So 2 mana removal, kind of. The requirement, essentially, is that your opponent has 2 minions in play. Then you can play Murder Accusation to kill the bigger minion for 2 mana, if you can also kill the cheaper minion. That's really specific, actually. You can also kill your own minion off, if your opponent has a minion, but I doubt that's going to be the point of Murder Accusation. Murder Accusation reminds me a lot of Volcanomancy, which was a card that didn't see any use at all in Mage. I think Murder Accusation is similar to Volcanomancy in that respect, which will make Murder Accusation like too specific of a use case to actually see play. Because the requirements for it to actually be good are kind of heavy. You need a weak enemy minion, you need a strong enemy minion, you need the means to kill the weak enemy minion, and if Murder Accusation is ever like heavily played, your opponents will just not play a weak minion alongside their strong minion. We got a gift for Totem Shaman. Shaman 1 mana Totemic Evidence. Choose a basic totem and summon it. Infuse 3 totems. Summon all 4 instead. Potentially 1 mana to summon all 4 totems. It's a pretty good payout for playing Totem Shaman. A very unique totem infuse requirement where the minions that die have to be totems, so you can't use the fish from Schooling to infuse cards as you might have in Evolve Shaman. It's definitely a strong payout if you're playing a Totem Shaman. It's a lot of totems for 1 mana. This card by itself is probably not going to push Totem Shaman to playable status, but each class gets 3 class cards, so fingers crossed that Shaman gets their remaining card that they need in order to make this entire totem package work. Maybe even 2 cards, who knows? You throw enough synergy at one specific thing and eventually it'll be good. Then we've got a really interesting set of neutral cards here. Tight-Lipped Witness, 3 mana 2/5, secrets can't be revealed. That's really easy to call pack filler. It's the epic from the set. It is probably specifically for the wild meta. If you really hate Ice Block, you can play Tight-Lipped Witness and then kill your opponent. Otherwise, I don't believe a tech card aimed directly at secrets is ever impactful enough to run. You got Afterlife Attendant, a 3 mana 3/4. Your infused cards also infuse while in your deck. Main problem with this card is you need him on the field, and then you need to actually have your other cards die. That's really specific timing. Sometimes you infuse by playing a mana card, 6 or 7 mana, to summon a bunch of whelps or summon a bunch of otters if you're a druid. And tough to do that while also paying 3 mana for Afterlife Attendant. Just a little bit too heavy of a tax. Just draw the infuse cards instead of playing the attendant that infuses your cards while they're in your deck. And then you've got Soul Seeker. I am befuddled by the high mana cost of this card. 5 mana 3/3 Battlecry, swap this with a random minion from your opponent's deck. So you pay 5 mana and you get a random minion from your opponent's deck. You know, back in my day, we actually paid 4 mana for this effect in Mind Games. This is a rare case where the card is worse than a bad card that used to exist. It's usually the other way around. Now, yes, the intent of this, unlike Mind Games, is to disrupt your opponent. And when Mind Games pulled out your like opponent's win condition, like Denathrius, they still had the Denathrius in your deck with Soul Seeker. You perhaps could win the game. But you know, this is actually very similar to Nosferatu, I believe it is, was called. The 2-mana 2/3 that just burned the top card of your opponent's deck. It's disruption, but it's like pretty random disruption. And, you know, it's 5-mana disruption. When your 5-mana card might easily grab like a 1-mana minion from your opponent's deck. It's incredibly bad. No way, no how Soulseeker sees any play. In truth, I'm not actually sure Soulseeker would see play at 3 mana. So at 5 mana, we're ready to give this 1 star. So that's your first look at Maw and Disorder. There will be cards revealed for the next 3 days, and as always, I'm very excited to cover the new cards. So we will cover them every day. September 23rd, 24th, 25th, with the expansion releasing on the 27th.